And good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have a lot of baseball to get to tonight, a lot of college softball and baseball to discuss as well. And of course, with me, as always, is my co-host who is I guess it's maybe starting to taper off a little bit with the hockey in the neutral zone, although we're getting close to the Stanley Cup Finals. I believe we're in the conference championships right now. But we saved that for later on in the week. But he is here with me tonight. It is Freddie B. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Good evening, Mike. Yeah, as you mentioned, Game 7. No, thank you. Game 7 going on right now to determine the final spot in the Eastern Conference in the NHL. And Montreal is leading Buffalo, which Adam S. here at IE Sports Radio is I don't know what his blood pressure is right now, but it's got to be elevated. He is stressing out.
I imagine it probably sounds something like this.
Absolutely.
Probably a bit.
Yeah, we got that going on. Just a ton of bat and ball sports. I mean, Mike, we've got the Major League Baseball just had a really good weekend of rivalry games. And we've, like you talked about, NCAA softball had their regionals start, and that was an exciting weekend as well. College baseball about ready to start conference tournaments this week. So much going on, and that's about it. I've been trying to keep my eyeballs glued to as many screens and as many stats as I can over the past week. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, it was definitely a hectic weekend in sports. You had all of the great NHL playoff hockey. You had NBA. You had several. You had their semifinals, so they're in their conference championships as well. So a lot of really major sporting things happening. Thank goodness there's nothing really football related, although you do have the UFL going right now. But really, a lot of key sports, and of course. Before we dive in there, if you are a fan of the show, please do follow us on X. You can follow yours truly at IESR_DMV, and you can follow Freddie at FreddieB_sports. So let's get right to it. First with, of course, it is Monday night. We've got live baseball games going right now across the league. Some high-scoring affairs as well, looking at it. We've got the Mets are leading the Nationals 5-4, which is interesting. That game was 5-3, I believe, about 30 seconds ago. So that one's getting close there. That in the bottom of the 7th, Nationals threatening there with runners on second and third. We've got the Marlins just giving the business to the Braves, 12-0. That one in the middle of the 7th. We've got Phillies and Reds, the red hot Phillies. That's a really bad pun. I apologize. But we've got the Phillies leading the Reds 5-4. That one in the top of the 9th as Johan Duran is in to close that out for the Phillies. We've got the Guardians beating the Tigers 7-1. Pretty good game from Giacone going on there. We've got the Blue Jays beating the Yankees 5-3. That one in the top of the 7th. The Red Sox beating the Royals 3-1. That one in the top of the 8th. Rain delay hitting the Astros and Twins. The Twins leading 3-0. That one in the bottom of the 5th. The Brewers beating the Cubs 8-2. That was actually 8-0 before we started the show. So the Cubs showing a little bit of life there after being no hit through 4. We've got the Rockies leading the Rangers 2-0. That one in the top of the 2nd. And throughout the rest of the evening, we have the Athletics at the Angels. That one in LA. We've got the White Sox facing off against the Mariners in Seattle. We've got the Dodgers facing off against the Padres in San Diego. That one, Yamamoto versus Michael King. So that should be a really good one. And we've got the Giants going against the Diamondbacks, and that is it. There's no other baseball games going tonight.
Everybody is playing.
Yeah, everybody. That's it. There's no more. There's no other games where a team is beating another team 16-5. That is not. There's no games.
Oh yeah. About that. Yeah, you failed to mention the Rays game.
Oh yeah. There are those pesky Tampa Rays beating the Orioles 16-5. That one just finished the 7th inning, going to the top.
Red hot,
the 8th.
Red hot first place Rays, and the Yankees losing again. They can have a 4.5 or 4 game lead on the Yankees after tonight.
That is
That's
crazy.
nuts right now.
Rays, one of the hottest teams
They
in
are.
baseball
They are
right now, for sure.
winners of 18 of their last 22, about to be 19 of their last 23. Like you said, Mike, that Cubs game, we were going to kind of focus on that one because they were getting no hit going into the fourth. Carson Kelly led off the inning with a base hit. Dansby Swanson, 2-run bomb. That game, there is runs, there's hits. We can focus on other stuff right now. And I think we need to lead with college softball because tournament action started this past weekend.
Absolutely. You are correct, sir. Tournament action started this weekend and in dramatic fashion, although not a ton of early Cinderellas. We did have all of the regionals come and go. It was a very busy weekend for some teams, like we mentioned, potential for teams to play 5 games in 3 days, and a few teams did. So let's get right to it, starting off with the Tuscaloosa regional, where Alabama hosted with USC Upstate, Southeastern Louisiana, and Belmont. Not really much to say here, Freddie, if you want to throw a note in there, but Alabama just steamrolled.
Nothing. Alabama did what they were supposed to do and went in there and just swept through that series. Now they're going to have a big, tough matchup as LSU came away winners of the Baton Rouge bracket. 2 SEC teams who've seen themselves quite a few times throughout the years and are very familiar. That's going to be a really good matchup, a 1 versus a 4 seed in that one down there. Mike, I wanted to talk about real quick, and you had some concerns with this one as well, is Florida State in the Tallahassee bracket. What happened down there?
Yeah, so Florida State ended up on the back foot early. The very first game in that bracket, they got upset by Stetson. Not usually the way you want to go about it. So that immediately put them in the elimination bracket against Jacksonville State, who actually put up a pretty good game against UCF in their first one. It was 2-1, the final. So UCF advanced, and then Florida State got things going. They handily eliminated Jacksonville State in the elimination bracket. Then UCF beat Stetson, so Florida State got a chance for their revenge, and they did so in defiant fashion, beating Stetson 11-3. But coming into the final day, they were on the back foot. UCF was clean. FSU had to win both games. They actually win the first game of the potential doubleheader, but then fall in the final game 4 to do so. They almost pulled off the miracle comeback there, but they just could not quite get it done. An uncharacteristically poor series of performances by ace pitcher Jazzy Francic, who just simply did not have it in the first game against Stetson. The thing about college softball, more so than baseball, is if you have one really good pitcher, you will lean on them heavily in these regionals. And Francic, when she couldn't get a hold in game 1, kept having to come back in multiple games afterwards. And I think, the arm's going to give out eventually. The same thing was with Belmont pitcher Maya Johnson, one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in the country. Had a phenomenal first game, pitched the very next day against Alabama, didn't get the win, but pitched there, and then had to pitch the elimination game as well. She appeared in all 3, and at that point, you start to lose the command a little bit. So it was a rough showing for Florida State, the highest seed to be eliminated in the regionals.
Yeah. It was funny. I was going to bring up a joke about Stetson, but it wasn't until I was like in my 20s that I even realized that Stetson was a university. I always thought it was a terrible cologne that my grandfather would gift me every Christmas. But I thought, when I texted you when they upset Florida State that first game, I'm like, oh no, this is the series that we thought, could have an upset. And sure enough, USF, the number 6 seed, prevails. They're going to be playing UCLA, who won the Los Angeles bracket as well. UCLA doing their thing. Really exciting games for them over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, that first game for them against Cal Baptist, by the way, shout out Cal Baptist, Larry
Yeah.
V's alma mater there. Cal Baptist had them on the ropes. In fact, very on the ropes. I think it was, and they had a 9 or a 10 run lead entering late in the game, but UCLA was able to pull it back together and won 12-11. And then proceeded to just steamroll the rest of their games. By the way, I did want to shout out LSU. They also steamrolled their division, but I thought it was more impressive what they did than Alabama because they beat up on a very solid Virginia Tech team twice, giving up a total of 2 runs in their 2 games against Virginia Tech and outscoring their opponents 23-2. So I think you're right. I think that Alabama LSU super regional is going to be one to watch, a very impressive one, just for sure.
And let's just finish out the left hand side here. Arkansas, they won their host bracket there in Fayetteville. They're going to be going up against Duke in the next round, and Duke had to win multiple games on Sunday to get to this point, defeating Arizona and winning that Durham bracket. They're going to be playing Arkansas. That's going to be a heck of a series right there.
Absolutely. And Arkansas, another team, absolutely steamrolled their bracket, didn't lose a game. You're right. Duke needing the double win on Sunday to avoid the elimination, did manage to pull it off against Arizona in dramatic fashion. And I wonder, teams that have to play these extra games in the super regionals, because you have an Arkansas who just pitched 3 games, just clean on through, no drama. Duke had to play 5 games, in order to make it on. So you got to wonder if moving on to the super regionals. Now, thankfully, they get a pretty nice break in between. They don't play again until Friday, but you got to wonder if maybe those extra games have some impact in the future rounds.
It very well could be. We'll see how that plays out when they start their series. And again, just to remind everybody, when you get to the super regionals, it's a 2 out of 3. So they're going to be playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Shouldn't have any double headers, anything like that to worry about this time around. So I'm excited. That's going to be really good. It's a great point. The teams that played out of the losers bracket to start the tournament that ended up winning, I think they were one of the only ones. And I think Arizona State, another big team who had to come, I think, from behind as well, were one of those teams that had to play a few extra games. But Stillwater bracket, Oklahoma State rolled, Lincoln, Nebraska just blew through their regional as well. So no surprises.
Nebraska, an impressive run, won three games, only scoring 7 runs.
Yeah.
But that's easy when you only give up 1 run. But yeah, you're right. Both those teams.
Then the last game they beat Grand Canyon 1-0. That's all it took. When you don't give up any runs, you could win every game.
Yeah, and I was wondering about Grand Canyon, and they made a game of it a little bit, only losing by 2-1. I was wondering if Grand Canyon couldn't be one of those dark horse teams in there. But yeah, 2 teams worked through their division. Should be a really good matchup, I think, between those 2.
I think so.
So that finishes off the left side of the bracket. Now we get to the right side with the Stillwater regional. Oklahoma, are we surprised? Just absolutely, mopping the floor with, their opponents. That one, they outscored they won their 3 games 28-1. So yeah, really no competition from there. But the Eugene regional, that one did see some drama with Oregon getting eliminated by St. Mary's. St. Mary's lost their first game to Mississippi State, ended up in the elimination bracket, defeated Idaho State, and then beat Oregon after Oregon lost to Mississippi State. And then Mississippi State cleaned up St. Mary's to move on. That was a dramatic regional there.
Yeah, Mississippi State looked really good. Again, they had really good pitching, only giving up, I think, the 2 runs to St. Mary's in their first game, and ending the tournament on a couple of shutouts there. So, yeah, that's going to be good. Oklahoma, Mississippi State. I'm not going to say that this has the potential for an upset, but I think if there is one in any of these brackets, the biggest upset could be Oklahoma going down.
Yeah.
Both SEC teams, so they have been familiar, with each other as well, having played each other through the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oklahoma, they're not the same team that lost like 5 games in 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they're a bad team, they're still great, but they're not the ultra dominant group that they were not super long ago. Moving down the list here, Texas Tech didn't really get much resistance in their bracket in the Lubbock Regional. Ole Miss in the second game, it was 10-9, so Ole Miss put up a good fight there. And then Florida facing very little resistance from their bracket. So those two will face off in what promises to be a very good super regional there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and then back down south, yeah. No, yeah, down south. Knoxville, Tennessee. Yep. The number 2 seed.
Cleaning it up, beating Virginia. Virginia did make a good show of it with a couple of close games there, but Tennessee ultimately came away there with the victory. And then Georgia, another team, faced very little resistance in the Athens Regional. So now another SEC matchup. I think, what is that? Is that just
I'm
just
counting all the teams in here right now.
Three SEC exclusive matchups in the super regionals: Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and then Texas and Georgia, Tennessee and Georgia. So 3 SEC exclusives.
9 out of the 16 teams remaining are SEC teams.
Yep.
So they dominated this entire field.
And there is 1 ACC team. Yep. So then we go down to, we're going to save the College Station one for last because that one maybe had the most drama. We'll just go ahead and brush over Texas really quick because they dominated, outscoring their opponents 25-1 in the 3 games, faced no resistance whatsoever. But the College Station Regional, Texas A&M, battled through. I was mistaken in the pre-show. I thought they were the first host team eliminated. They were not. I think that was Oregon upon further review. But Texas A&M did have some really close battles against Arizona State. Arizona State ended up coming out on top there, so they get the matchup against Texas.
Yeah, Arizona State beating Texas A&M in both games that they played each other. Texas A&M scored 17 runs against UConn and then 10 runs against UConn. If they would have played against UConn, that would have been a clean sweep right to the finals, but Arizona State stood in their way, and that was one of the it's a 4-5 matchup. It's not technically that big of an upset when the teams are that close together, but yeah, when you're the host team, you're expected to make it out of your regional, and Arizona State just prevailed, just getting the best of Texas A&M.
Yep, 100% there, 100%. So looking at the super regionals, like we said, we got Alabama, LSU, we've got UCLA, UCF, we've got Arkansas, Duke, and then we've got Nebraska, Oklahoma State. That's going to feature, that's your left side of the bracket. And on the right side, we've got Oklahoma, Mississippi State, we've got UF and Texas Tech. We've got Tennessee and Georgia, and we've got Texas and Arizona State. So really, not really a ton in terms of like upset potential here because there are only 3 teams that are lower than a 4 seed in the super regional. So not really, it doesn't count as a major upset if a 4 takes out a 1. I don't know. Definitely not if a 3 takes out a 2. I don't really consider that an upset at all. But if there were a dramatic team to make it into the final 8, as it would be, of the actual World Series itself for softball, which team would you place a bet on?
I would go with Mississippi State. I think that Mississippi State, that Oklahoma game, that series is going to be great. But I think that is the one where the lower seed is going to come out on top. I think Alabama takes care of LSU, UCLA takes care of USF. Duke, Arkansas, I think that is a toss-up. I don't know who to take. Obviously, you mentioned Duke's played a couple of extra games. Can that make any difference? I don't know about that. Arizona State, Texas. I think Texas just keeps rolling. I don't know but Arizona State looked really good in that last region. So we'll see what happens. But I think if I had to pick an upset or a lower seeded team to advance, I'm going to go with Mississippi State.
I like that one. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State over Nebraska, I think, if I had to pick, one of the lower ones. Oklahoma State came out really strong in their division, beating up Stanford twice. Nebraska really strong in their regional, but again, they only scored 7 runs. They only scored 4 runs against South Dakota. So you got to wonder, is the offense, ready? Like if a team starts to get some hits and starts to get some runs across, is the offense going to be able to pick it up? I'm a little concerned about that. So that one kind of stands out. Kind of like you said, the 2s versus 3s, which there are 3 of them: Arkansas, Duke, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida, Texas Tech. They're all toss-ups to me. I mean, those are all really good matchups. I could see any of those. I want to see UCF continue this run. I think that would make the finals really exciting. However, UCLA looks phenomenal. They got off to that really slow start against Cal Baptist, but since then they are, and I want to look at the actual game really quick.
They have some of the best looking uniforms too. They got the baby blues with the yellow down the sleeves and down the pants. I mean, they look really sharp on the field as well. So UCLA is pulling it off. But I mean, you make a great point. Nebraska was the number 1 team overall in the entire tournament going forward at 46-6 this year. And Oklahoma State ended the season ranked number 15. Those are two really good teams that are going to be battling. I don't think that number 4 is really, justifiable for Oklahoma State. They could have been a 3 seed if they. It was a possibility. Could have
easily. So to clarify the Cal Baptist game for UCLA, I had my numbers a little wrong. So UCLA at the end of the 5th was down 11-7, so it wasn't as dramatic. But since being down 11-7, they have outscored their opponents 27-3. So it took them about 5 innings, but they finally found their stride here. As much as I would love to say UCF continues their streak here, I think UCLA's got this one in the bag. Remember, UCF, they didn't have to play Florida State until Florida State was on the back foot. So It's not like some of these other teams that beat their main opponents pretty handily. UCF actually needed 2 games to finish off Florida State. So they did win their regional. I'm not trying to minimize that, but in terms of the fashion they won it, UCLA's I just felt was much more definitive and dominant. They're looking good there.
But look at the other matchups. Tennessee, Georgia, number 8 versus number 11 overall at the end of the season. And then the Texas Tech, Florida, again, the number 6 team and the number 10 team. I think both of those games are going to go all 3. It's going to come down to Sunday to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless I will asterisk the Tennessee series because their pitching was they had 2 good, really solid games. One game where they gave up 5 to Virginia. Which, remember we were talking about Tennessee at the 3/4 mark of the season with their absurd ERA. If their pitchers somehow find that magic back, then I think they get through Georgia pretty handily. But if they don't, not to say they've been bad, they've just been more normal as opposed to absolutely surreal like they were. So, but I agree. I think that's going to be a great super regional. The only ones I mean, Alabama, LSU could be really good as well. The only one I don't really see being much of a competition is probably Texas, Arizona State. If I had to pick one where I think one team is just going to clear, it's probably that one. I could also see, you brought up Mississippi State as a dark horse upset, and I like the pick, but I could also just as easily on the flip side see Oklahoma just rolling away with that one as well. I think that one,
yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's an equal chance of both. I think it could be, this great series where maybe I think if it is a great competitive series, I think that's the scenario where Mississippi State comes out on top. But if Oklahoma comes out game one steamrolling, I think that's going to be the end of it right there pretty quick.
Yeah, it is going to make for a really good, exciting weekend of college softball for sure, because College World Series on the line. These games are going to get competitive. We may get some nastiness. That's what makes these games so great. And you talked about real quick. I wanted to let everybody know too, when we're talking about college softball, and you said UCLA was down 11-7 or whatever it was in that first game against Cal Baptist. In the fifth inning, they only play 7-inning games, so they had to mount that comeback in quick fashion. It's not like college baseball where you're playing a 9-inning game. In college softball, it's only 7 innings. So just to that point, going forward, that they really put the pedal to the metal and just was on a rampage scoring runs. I mean, UCLA, look out for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. UCLA is not a team to take lightly in this tournament. Sticking in the college ranks, we had college baseball this past weekend. In fact, the final weekend of college baseball, as it was, with the last games, or I guess of the regular season, I should specify, with the last series finishing off. Were there any so we had some pretty good series here. We had number 4 Georgia and number 5 Auburn. Georgia won that series 2-1. Any other series catch your eyes, Freddie?
I didn't like the way that UCLA ended, losing up in Washington. That was a series that, if you're going to lose now, you've already, you've already secured the number 1 seed overall. Yeah. But that Washington isn't a very good baseball team this year, and that was just a bad loss by the Bruins. I don't know if it's something. I don't know if it's something that is going to stick with them as we go on, but going forward though, lose those games now before they mean it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A couple of teams not having like completely clean series looking across the board. West Virginia dropped one to TCU over the weekend. UNC dropped the final game to NC State in their series here. Georgia Tech, I think we've been talking, like, if there's a team that I am thinking could challenge UCLA overall, Georgia Tech is one, sweeping Boston College right off of their feet, and also right out of the top 25, as it would have it in the rankings, as the Bruin or the Eagles get swept and then dropped. Let's see, Oklahoma State dropped a game to 19-34 Arizona. Not bad. A great showing for them. Arizona State dropped one to Houston. So a couple of teams just not having in quite clean series. Coastal Carolina lost their series to the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. That is not how you want your season to end.
No, but
right there.
Talk about teams that are on fire right now. Mississippi or Southern Miss. They swept through Georgia Southern this weekend, dominating all 3 games. They're 40-14 right now. Fast. That's a team to look out for. I think they're on the rise, as we talked about a month ago now. Kansas was kind of on the rise. They won 2 out of 3 this weekend at BYU. But Southern Miss could be a team that could ride this momentum that they're on right now and have it carry into conference play. If they could win their tournament, that's just going to boost their morale as well. And then we had a really good series to end things with Oregon and USC. Oregon getting the walk-off in that last game. That was in incredible fashion as well. Both those teams should be securely in the tournament at 16 and 17 in their rankings.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Not a lot of major shifts in the rankings. USC dropping from 17 to 25. I thought that was a little bit unfair. It was Oregon who they lost 2 out of 3 to.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a dramatic swing there, especially since they dropped below Coastal Carolina, who just lost to Louisiana. So I'm not really sure. I agree with that particular
I'm actually looking on.
assessment.
I'm looking on
Yeah.
a D1 on D1.baseball.com right now. They don't even have SC in the top 25 at this point. They dropped them completely out of the top 25.
Yeah, NCAA.com has them exactly at
Mm-hmm.
25. Yeah, so they're exactly
They're trending in
there.
the
So
wrong direction.
yeah, which again, I mean, you lost 2 games to Oregon, who was the number 16 team. I mean, that's not, I don't think that's enough to drop them that far, but I can't say that I've completely understood all of these rankings throughout the entirety of the season. But hey, look, all that matters
Yeah.
is you get into the bracket at the end, right? Once you're there. By the
Well,
way, it's interesting you bring up Southern Miss in a very good position, not just to make the tournament, the regionals, but to be a regional host
yes.
as well. I think that would be a great advantage for them. Now, who they would get matched up with in their regional, they could be one of those teams that gets a a really tough, maybe like a USC or one of these talented SEC teams that are just outside the top 16 in their regional, which would be brutal. But yes, so the tournaments, the postseason tournaments start on Tuesday, it looks like, based on the schedule. So that's tomorrow. Is there any one tournament that you have your eye on as one that could have some significant
I,
implications for the
I think the most exciting.
rankings?
I think the most exciting is going to be the ACC tournament because North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Florida State all have legitimate chances of winning. Georgia
Hmm.
Tech and North Carolina have been battling back and forth all season. North Carolina, I've watched them play against Georgia Tech. They looked good against them. Um, I think those one of those two teams, um, depending on who wins, I'm assuming UCLA is going to go through and win, and they'll be the number one overall. But I think whoever comes out of the ACC, if it's North Carolina or Georgia Tech, will be the number two highest ranked team throughout the tournament.
Yep, I would agree with that 100%. Yeah, I think the ACC tournament's a real interesting one. Also, the SEC, but I'm not as curious for the SEC for the top teams like Georgia, Texas, Auburn. I'm kind of curious to see, like I said, any of these, if you look at the 15 to 15 to 18 is all SEC teams:
Yeah,
Alabama, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Florida, and that's right on the cusp of getting a host spot for the tournament. So I'm curious to see if any of those teams can get on a little bit of a run. Maybe boost their stock a little bit to get that host spot, or if any of them like Alabama, who's currently 15, if they maybe stumble early on in the SEC tournament, do they drop out of getting a host spot? And do they then end up in each other's regionals, battling it out, trying to trying to
yeah.
move on to the supers? Because I'm assuming, I mean, I don't know if the two sports collab on their formulas as much as I think they would, but I'm assuming it's going to follow a similar formula to the um to softball, where they've got the different kind of like sub bracket rankings with like the 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5 setup. I
Yeah,
wonder if that's how
I
they're
think they'll
they're going to do it.
I think they're going to end up doing something like that.
Yeah.
I like the way that they did that on the women's side. Now, keep in mind too, in some of these smaller conferences as well, not as many teams make their conference tournaments. For instance, like the Big West, they only have 6 teams making the conference tournament. Where you have like in the Big East, only 4 teams make the conference tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as big as like the Big 10 or Big 12 or anything like that. So you're going to see some of these other teams. The Ivy League has already started theirs. That started today, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and we've already got a few. Or was it today or yesterday? I don't remember, but yeah, I think they've already started or completed theirs. I think it was Yale beating Brown. If I look here, Brown. Yeah, the championship was Yale beating Brown. That was yesterday. So the Ivy League has sent their first team, and that's going to be Yale.
Fantastic. Well, we'll see what unfortunate draw Yale gets when it comes to bracket time. We are going to go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we are going to jump back up to the pros with our week in review and some upcoming matchups to watch. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we jump into our week in review, we'll do our second quick score update as we do have some finals that are in the books now. We have the Marlins did officially shut out the Braves 12-0. Quite a game for them. The Phillies held on to defeat the Reds. I think we're going to be talking about the Phillies here definitely in a moment with how well they've been playing. The Red Sox defeated the Royals. They hold on 3-1. The Rays finished off the Orioles final 16-6, not 16-4, so it was a little bit better there. We have some drama in DC as the Mets and Nationals are tied. That one in the bottom of the ninth, the Nationals have 2 men on, 2 men out. So we'll see how that one plays out. We have the Guardians still leading the Tigers 7-2. That one in the top of the ninth. We have the Yankees have taken the lead from the Blue Jays, now 7-5. That one in the top of the eighth. Astros Twins still hanging on to a rain delay. Brewers leading the Cubs 9-3 now. As they continue to work that one. Rockies hold their lead against the Rangers now 4-1 in the bottom of the fourth. And the Athletics and Angels, actually, it looks like all of our West Coast games, Athletics, Angels, White Sox, Mariners, Dodgers, Padres, and Giants, Diamondbacks all now underway, all in the first inning, all 0-0. So we'll just call it a clean sweep. And it looks like, as we were talking, the Mets Nationals game is going to go 2 extra innings. So we've got some free baseball going there. So now let's take it to our week in review. And Freddie, you had a bunch of really good stats that you saw from this past week. So I'll let you take it away there.
I grabbed a lot of stuff over this week, and I think we should start right now. Like you just mentioned, we're going to be talking Philadelphia Phillies. They win again tonight. They're on fire right now. They've moved themselves above 500 right now. What can you say about Kyle Schwarber and the run that he has been on? I didn't see what he did today. I'm going to pull up the box score here, but he has been just mashing the heck out of the ball right now for the Phillies. Let's see here what he did tonight. Okay, Schwarber had the night off, it looks like. So he didn't even play.
Boring.
So, yeah. I mean, the Phillies are playing good. And the Braves lose a big game tonight. That's just another game that they gain on them. And if they can gain, 2 to 3 games a month at this rate, they're going to be right in the thick of things as we get into like August. So don't sleep on them. Their pitching's coming around. Christopher Sanchez, 13 strikeouts the other night as well. He was lights out. Everything is starting to come around. Alec Boehm is hitting the ball to Brandon Marsh. We talked about he's having a really good season. I like what the Phillies are doing right now. Right there in the NL East. And the Marlins playing good ball still. I mean, everybody's playing some pretty decent ball except for the Mets, it seems like. Dodgers and Angels. What a series this was. The Dodgers outscore the Angels 31-3 in the 3-game series. I think they caught more rats and possum in the stands than the Angels put runs on the scoreboard. And some craziness that happened in that as well. We'll get into that at the end of the show when we talk about our moments. The Astros, what's going on with them, Mike? I mean, I think they're done. They're cooked. They already lost Correa, and now Altuve goes on the disabled list. They're in a world of hurt, and they're losing right now in that rain-delayed game to the Twins, getting shut out. Where's the offense going to come from? Is Yordan Alvarez ready to be moved?
He might have to be, and you're right. And the funny thing about the Astros is that this was a team that, at least very early on in the season, very early, we were like, oh, okay, maybe the Astros are legit. Like they started the season 6-3 through their first 9, and now they're only won a third of their games since then. It's just been an absolutely incredible collapse, and really just not. I mean, a couple of stretches, okay, here, they win 2 out of 3 in a series, and then over here they win 2 out of 3, but overall, yeah, they are. I would say they're not quite as cooked as their divisional counterpart, the Angels, but they are pretty well cooked. And I did want to bring up a couple of stats about Schwarber that you brought up in just the months.
Yes.
In an 8-game stretch between Thursday, May 7th and Friday, May 15th. So in an 8-game stretch, 9 home runs.
God.
That is an absurd stretch. And interestingly enough, hitting 230 with a 980 OPS.
Yeah.
Like they're numbers that just, to a certain extent, they absolutely they don't even make sense.
You know what else doesn't make sense when you look at Schwarber's numbers is he has 20 bombs, but he only has 36 RBIs. So a lot of those home runs are coming with nobody on base.
Right, absolutely. But hey, I mean, you can't argue the stretch he's been on, and you can't argue the stretch of the Phillies are on. Now with 5 wins in a row, 8 of their last 10, and like you said, slowly creeping up on the Angels, and on the Braves, and I'm doing some quick math here because I'm curious. Okay, so Schwarber currently not. Somebody had said, and this was maybe a couple of games ago now. Schwarber at one point was on pace to break the 73 single season home run record. Now he's fallen off that pace. He's now only on pace for 67.5, but 67.5. But that would still,
Jeez.
I mean, shoot, even if the first number, I mean, look, he's developed into one of the best power hitters in the game. Not best hitter,
Without
I
a
have to
doubt, yeah.
specify, just best power hitter. And you know what I noticed the other day when I was looking at his numbers? His power really started to come on when they stopped putting him in the outfield.
That's Donnie baseball.
When he moved to full-time DH, his power numbers exploded. Like, they were good prior. Like, he was a solid 30 home run guy prior. But since then, I mean, it's been upper 40s and 50s. Like, I don't know who. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'll give up the occasional, 2 strikeouts a game if he can deliver and produce the way he is. And what can you say about what Don Mattingly has done since he's taken over managing the Phillies as well? I think I think he has a lot to do with the way that they were playing right now.
Yeah, Don Mattingly taking over, and that also combined with Zach Wheeler coming back from injury. He's got a 1.89 ERA so far this season, and he's not even the best pitcher right now, I would argue, for the Phils. I think that would probably be Christopher
That's a good
Sanchez.
problem to have. That's a good problem to have. Really good starting pitching.
Fantastic problem. Hey, look, I would love for the Orioles to have that problem. I would love to, and there were some silly fans, myself included, that said the Orioles might have too many starting pitchers entering the season. That was a stupid statement. I don't know why anybody even thought that.
Hey, whoa. Wow, Padres just took the lead on the Dodgers.
Hey,
it's like a Miguel. And I wanted to talk about the Padres. They're keeping pace with the Dodgers. They've been neck and neck for the last 2 weeks, only separated by about a half of a game either way. And they just came off a nice sweep of Seattle. Gavin Sheets named NL Player of the Week. Monster week for Sheets. Tatis still hasn't caught his stride yet. They put Andujar to lead off, I think, here tonight, and he starts off with a homer. Or he might be batting second. I don't know where we're at. But yeah, that's a great start. 1-0 Padres going up against Yamamoto. Michael King put down the Dodgers in the first inning. Really good games right there. Those are 2 teams. They're going to be neck and neck, I think, the entire season. They're both going to be playoff teams.
Yeah, I think they're going to be neck and neck, and it's looking like nobody else in the division's really going to have a ton of interest in making the comeback. By the way, I do have to, there are 2 other teams that I have to give props to, the Guardians and the White Sox.
Yes, sir.
Starting to put together, somebody from the AL Central heard our pleas to step up, and those 2 now. The Guardians, I could have, I think that would have been reasonable. The White Sox is a curveball out of left field. I didn't see that one coming, but credit to them. They are now 24-22, a game behind the Guardians, winners of 7 of their last 10, and owners of a wild card spot if the playoffs had started today. And they have made it so that you can no longer stack the NL Central on top of the AL Central and have the teams in record order. They have now jumbled it up a bit. So yeah, good for them.
You talk about the White Sox and the run that they've been on. They just took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs over this weekend. I mean, Colson Montgomery, 13 homers, leads all shortstops in Major League Baseball right now. That's somebody, I bet you, if you said who's Colson Montgomery, nobody would know who you're talking about. He's the shortstop for the White Sox. He's having a great season. Average is low at 238, same average almost as Murakami. But together, combined, that's 30 home runs of offense.
Yeah, they are popping. And then Miguel Vargas, 11 home runs as well. So 3 double-digit home run guys for the White Sox. Colson Montgomery, by the way, product of the Garrett Crochet trade, to show off a little bit of my knowledge coming over from the Red Sox there. So, you're right. Just incredible power production, but also, a little bit of a shout out to, their pitchers putting up some good performances as well. Davis Martin. Now, you want to talk about a name that nobody would have known entering the season. I don't think anybody was looking at their betting cards and going, oh yeah, Davis Martin is going to have a, let's see, 1.61 ERA with a 0.98 whip.
Look at his
9
strikeouts too.
starts into the season.
Look, his strikeouts. He was on Prize Picks the other day when he started at 5.5 strikeouts. I totally smashed the over on that, and I think he went for 7. But that, I mean, I think he has like close to 35 strikeouts over his last 4 starts or something stupid number like that. Yeah, keep an eye on him as well. And I mean, and this is with Shane Smith, right? He hasn't even pitched this year. He's still hurt.
Right.
You get him back. If they get him back, keep an eye out for a White Sox team to make a wild card run. I think Cleveland can still, run the division, but these White Sox, they're not the same team that we saw as the record-breaking losers a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what's even more impressive about Davis Martin, I'm doing some more quick math. 1.24 ERA since his first start of the season as well. So he has been on fire and definitely one of the catalysts of this White Sox run. Now we are going to look ahead. We obviously have these series here kicking off our week. As you mentioned, Freddie, couple of really good series here tonight with the Dodgers and Padres, and also the Cubs Brewers facing off. That's going to make the weekday series really interesting. But looking ahead to the weekend, what matchups do you have on your radar for this upcoming weekend?
Oh, I think the number one matchup is going to be the Rays at the Yankees.
Yep.
How far? I mean, the Yankees have come back. They were down 5-3 when we started the show. They've taken the lead since then, so they're going to maintain ground if they can win. But that's going to be a pivotal series right there. Either Tampa Bay increases their lead in the AL East, or the Yankees can shrink it. So I'm looking forward to that one right there. If I had to throw another one out there, Cardinals and Reds. When you have divisional games like that, those two teams, both similar record. The Cardinals, a very surprised team. The Reds have dropped after their incredible start. I think they started the season with like 8 straight road wins or some stupid record like that. They can't find their way out of a paper bag right now on the road. But the Cardinals at the Reds, I think that's another good series to watch this weekend.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I was looking at those two. The other one I was looking at was Dodgers Brewers.
Yes.
That I think is going to be a really great one. And another one as well. Guardians and Phillies, two of the hotter teams probably in baseball, facing off in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, by the way, for this series, marching out Sanchez, Wheeler, and Luzardo. So that's probably for the Phillies, probably about as good as you're going to get going through the rotation there.
That's big. Yeah, I mean the Philly. I think Guardians are going to throw out Gavin Williams game 1. I haven't seen who they've got the rest of the series, but that's going to be really good. You talk about two teams that can mash the ball. Cleveland yesterday hit 6 home runs.
Yep,
that's a huge number for a team that doesn't really have a whole lot of power. That's the one I think that they're lacking, and that could be a team if Cleveland is ahead in the division, and another team like the Astros are nowhere near making the playoffs. Maybe they could make a move, bring in somebody like Yordan Alvarez, the DH. Yeah. Imagine him on that Guardians team. When you have Jose Ramirez and some of the other guys they've got right now, that could be a dangerous combination.
Yeah, I can see that, especially, David Fry and Rhys Hoskins, who are kind of manning the middle power part of that Guardians lineup, aren't lighting the field on fire here. But I do want to give one last shout out as well. We've talked about guys who have come back or guys who have gotten hot, and then their team has correspondingly gotten hot. How about Jose Ramirez?
Yes.
Coming back from his poor start tonight, 3 for 4 with a home run and a double and a triple short of the cycle, assuming that this game ends here in the bottom of the 9th as the Guardians are still up 8-2. But he has recovered. He is now back up to a 240 batting average with a 799 OPS. So he's getting much closer to the Jose Ramirez we are all familiar with, and that is great for him, and clearly is having an impact on the Guardians as a whole. So now we are going to move to our Down on the Farm segment, where we're going to look at some minor league players. I have one in particular I am going to highlight. I'm just going to go ahead and snatch it. Not that I think you're going to steal it from me, Freddie, but I'm going to go ahead and this kid, and I do mean kid because he is 20 years old. Which just makes me feel nice and old in my heart over here. But Nationals prospect and probably soon to be top 100 prospect in baseball, Devin Fitzgerald. Now that's not Devin Fitzgerald, it's Devin Fitz-Gerald. So make sure you get the spelling right. Has been absolutely raking it. He is with the High A Wilmington Blue Rocks. He actually came over in the Mackenzie Gore trade for the Rangers. And so far this year, batting .307 with a .650 slugging percentage and a 1.073 OPS. Over half of his hits have been extra base hits, including 11 home runs. He has almost an even walk to strikeout ratio. And he's striking out, I'm trying to get a rough numbers because the MLB.com doesn't necessarily have it, about 20%, maybe less than 20%. So an under 20% strikeout rate, even walks to strikeouts, and a 1.073 OPS. That's probably about as good as you're going to get. But yeah, he is on fire. I would expect him to get the promotion to Double-A here before too long. And he's only 20 years old. Like I said, turns 21 in August. So he is definitely a guy that has the Nats excited for their future. And actually the Nats, we haven't really talked about a ton in terms of like prospects, but they have a lot of really strong infield prospects that could make the future for them really interesting. I know Seaver King, who was their first round pick back in 2024, he just got promoted to Triple-A Rochester after reaching base in all 35 games at Double-A Harrisburg.
Wow.
To start the season. So he's got a 35 game on base streak. So lots of guys to get really excited about.
Talking about the Nats too, they just called Dylan Cruz back up. So let's see how that pans out this time around.
Yeah, I was following his progression, and he was knocking the cover off of the ball, just absolutely smacking it. If he can just keep the bat under control and not chase everything, he is going to be, lighting the world on fire, because he's got very good speed, very good defensive acumen in the outfield. Just can't be striking out 3 times a game. You gotta put the bat on the ball, even if you're smacking it really hard. Just make sure you make contact. That's all you gotta do, and take it from there. So, Freddie B, who you got down on the farm?
Well, I was going to go with Colt Emerson being called up by the Seattle Mariners. He made his debut last night against the Padres at third base. But the guy I really want to talk about is Lazaro Montes. He's homered now in 3 straight games. He's playing in Double-A right now, Arkansas. That's a guy that I think he's shown power throughout his career. Doesn't hit for very good average, only hitting around 240, but he does have 10 home runs already this season, and he's homered 3 straight games. He's number 4 in the Mariners pipeline and number 30 overall in MLB's pipeline. So keep an eye on Lazaro Montes. Tall, lanky, left-handed hitter, could do some damage, and depending on how the Mariners are doing, I mean, they're looking for power and pop right now, especially with the big dumper, being a little, dinged up. I mean, his production, I think, we could talk in another episode, but I think we were borderline, flukish season that he had last year. I think we can almost say that was one for the ages, and I don't know if that's, what we're really going to see out of him, but that we could talk about that on the next show. But look for Lazaro Montes. Keep an eye out for that guy right now. He's just mashing the ball right now for AA Arkansas.
Absolutely, absolutely. And by the way, I do want to acknowledge Nolan Arenado, bottom of the first inning grand slam off of
Whoa.
Robbie Ray. So the Arizona Diamondbacks taking an
Okay.
early 4-1 lead. The Giants did get one back. Looks like on a Willie Adames home run.
They've been waiting for that all year.
Yeah. So that one's off to some interesting beginnings. Detroit trying to make it interesting in Cleveland as well.
Yeah, Blue Jays threatening, have the tying run on second base with one out, down 7-6 in the top of the ninth.
Man. Yeah, they already got the one run across off of Bednar there. So let's see if Bednar can finish it off there for the Yankees. We'll see. That's an important win. They definitely need that one there in New York. Now we are jumping to our Around the Diamond segment to finish it off, where we are just going to talk about whatever's on our hearts and minds tonight. And Freddie, I know yours, and you and I discussed mine before the show, so I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, this is something a little bit different. I know we've kind of talked about ABS and umpiring in a lot of the shows already this season, but this is a play that happened in the Angels-Dodgers game this weekend, in which I had never seen before. So, as a safety precaution in Major League Baseball and minor league baseball stadiums, they've extended the netting from behind home plate down past the dugout. And in some cases, even further, like in Anaheim, where the netting goes all the way down almost about 6 feet away from the foul pole down each line. And there was an instance in the game, Shohei Ohtani was up, 2 guys on. He hits a flare down the right field line, hits in fair territory, bounces into the netting in foul territory. Joe Adell, the right fielder, throws his hands up saying, okay, ground rule double. Shohei keeps running around the bases. After a discussion with the umpires and a challenge by the Angels, it was deemed that was, in fact, a home run. Ball is in play. Nobody knew the rule. Nobody knew the ground rule on that. So if a ball it hits in fair territory and it is thrown, or like in that case, the ball is hit and it bounces off of the netting, the ball is still in play. If it happens to happen in fair territory first, in that case, it was. Normally, that ball would be going into the stands and it's a ground rule double, but I had never seen that before. I've seen, foul balls get bounced off the netting and like a third baseman or a first baseman making a catch, but once it hits the netting on a foul ball, it's already a dead ball. I had never seen this in play. So it's like an imaginary, just wall that goes all the way down now. As long as it stays in play, you got to keep going. Now, each stadium has its own different ground rules, and I think that's something that needs to be reevaluated and, or at least re-educated on what each team's ballpark's ground rules are when it comes into play with those nets. I had never seen anything like that. It was a freak thing. My brother called me. He's like, did you see Shohei Ohtani's 3-run homer? I was like, no, I saw him hit one down the line. I turned the channel. I was like, what? Turn it back. Yeah, sure enough. Craziness.
Yeah. That's it. It doesn't make much sense to me, the result, because if there's no netting, the ball bounces over the wall. It's a ground rule double, right? So
it's like indoor soccer.
Yeah, like it would make sense that would be, a ground rule double. And it's especially like, I get it, if it's your home stadium, know the rules, I guess, but how is it possible for each guy to remember every rule in every stadium? Yeah. I mean, it's like, Tropicana Field with all of their different rules with the rafters, where, depending on where you hit a fly ball in the rafters, it's either like a double or home run or an out or something. We
even saw that in the World Series. Remember when that ball got lodged underneath in that Dodgers and Blue Jays game? Just touch up on it. And not every stadium has the netting that goes down that far. So in that case, it just happened, 3 feet further down the line and it's into the stands and it's a double. 2 runs are saved.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Baseball been around for 100 and something years, and
Always something.
you're still coming up with
Always.
scenarios that nobody's ever seen before.
True.
So I want to. So this is like part rant, part acknowledgement of a fun fact from last year. So tonight in the Orioles-Rays game, they had position player third baseman Weston Wilson came in to pitch the 8th inning with the team down 10 runs, which is within the rule books. That when it's more than like 9 runs is the gap. I think 9 runs is the threshold. Teams can bring in position players to start pitching. It's a effort to save relievers' arms in a game that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Sure. Oftentimes it results in some of the ridiculous scores that you see because oftentimes the relievers get messed up. Now, Wilson actually pitched a scoreless inning. He did give up 2 hits, but he got help with a double play from the infield, and he pitched a scoreless inning, so good for him. But I wanted to acknowledge the epic run that was Luis Vasquez last year, a reserve utility infielder for the Baltimore Orioles, was brought in to pitch on 4 different occasions. And this was later on in the season. There were other guys who kind of pitched in games earlier in the year, and they got wrecked. So Luis Vasquez made 4 relief pitch appearances, which I think was almost as many games he played as a position player for the Orioles. He pitched 4 1/3 innings, gave up 0 runs, had a .92 whip, and actually had a higher WAR as a relief pitcher than a position player.
No way.
Now Vasquez is currently in AAA, in the AAA Orioles affiliate, but if they ever needed a guy to come in and just pitch some shutdown innings, apparently the secret in the organization is not some highly rated pitching prospect. It's reserve utility infielder Luis Vasquez.
That's the stat of the night right there, Mike. Where did you grab that one from? Have you been holding on to that, just waiting for this moment?
I've had that in my back pocket for a year. It was a running joke, actually, amongst my family. All of my family is big Orioles fans, and we joked anytime Vasquez came in to pitch, it was an automatic. All right, the inning's over. And what made it more impressive was the efficiency. He was getting out of these innings in like 10 pitches.
That's outstanding.
I was like, man, Mason Miller, get out of the way. We got Luis Vasquez.
Right. That is awesome. I love that.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to end our show on. Reminder, of course, if you're the fan of the show, please do follow us on social media at IESR_DMV and for Freddie at FreddieB_sports. Freddie, any parting thoughts?
Let's go Padres and get this series against the Dodgers and secure first place in the NL West.
You know what? Assuming the Orioles season continues to go the way that it is, and assuming the national season eventually makes a downturn like it did last year, I will happily root for the Padres.
There's plenty of
Manny Machado and former Oriole Ramon Laureano as well.
That's
I believe
true.
is still on the team,
and Gavin Sheets
to fight off those Dodgers. I can't quite bring myself to root for the Pirates and former Oriole Ryan O'Hearn. That's kind of
no.
I love Ryan O'Hearn, and
that's
the
who
Pirates
it was. O'Hearn
playing really well. So maybe but I don't know if I'm quite ready to root for the Pirates yet.
No,
but the Padres, I'm okay with them.
We'd love to have you aboard.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Freddie B and Mike Patt for the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.